Welcome, everybody, to Career Jitsu. I'm extremely excited today because we have a special guest. The special guest, Robert Hackinson, you'll hear me call him Roberto or Bobby, is somebody very close in my life. He was my student all the way back in the 1900s. If you could imagine that, 1998, he was this cute little pudgy kid in my accounting class, and he was the youngest and everybody else was older. It was a senior class, but somehow he got in. So he was really quiet and shy, and he had his pudgy little cheeks and did all of his work. And then I saw him grow up, and then he got on the football team and he kind of grew up, went and studied criminal justice, got his degree. He was also my student in magic. So he was my magic student, and I taught him that over the years, and he got extremely, he surpassed me with his sleight of hand and his presentation skills. And then he went into sales and marketing, into the corporate America to kind of hone his skills, but he always wanted to be a professional speaker and trainer and entertainer. So he parlayed his skills in digital marketing from the corporate world. 2011 launched into Dynamic Influence. That's the name of his company. And he has the coolest job ever. I'm actually jealous of him. He has a job where he travels the world and he educates students from grades K all the way through college on very important subjects such as how to stay sober. He has a program called Sober Thoughts that talks to kids about the use of alcohol and the harrowing repercussions of drinking. He talks about social media, how not to become addicted to social media, how to use it respectfully. And he has an anti-bullying program that talks all about respect. He gets rave reviews. He's performed in every state in the United States except for Hawaii. So our friends listening in Hawaii, get him a gig in Hawaii so he can say that he's done all of the states. He's performed in Canada, Australia, Switzerland. He's a global phenom. I'm very proud of him. He's kind of like a son to me. And his name is Bobby Hackenson. So let's give him a big round of applause. Raise the roof for Roberto. Roberto, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. My
It's
pleasure.
awesome to be here.
It's just so cool to see you face to face like this. Roberto, tell us a little about your career, just your career journey, and what made you decide, because I know you studied criminal justice, but your heart, when you were a kid, you would always talk to me about, Frank, I want to like do my magic and I want to make it meaningful to people. I want to make my living speaking to people, connecting with people, influencing people positively. So tell us a little bit about your journey and some of the things you learned on it first, just quickly, like a quick kind of walkthrough. And then I want to hear about your jiu-jitsu, and then we'll kind of mesh the two together.
Got it. Yeah. As a kid, I always wanted to be a police officer because it was the only job I saw where I'd be like, I could get out, I could help people while like getting out and being out and about, not just stuck in one place or behind a desk. I liked that of like being out. And that's where I saw the best opportunity, being able to help people and being, having that freedom, I guess. When I graduated college with criminal justice, or I should say before that, when I was in high school, when I met you and you started teaching me magic, that's where I really fell in love with just the art of magic, performing, standing up, because it really did teach you how to stand up, have confidence, and getting that attention, which maybe I liked. I was the youngest child. Maybe I really just craved that attention. Like, everybody look at me. But being able to do that was really fun. And then it was just kind of got to the point where it's like, can I use this magic and still help people and get out and about? And that's, seeing some of our magic friends and what they were doing and being able to use it as a way of educating kids and adults and helping with messages. And that's where I really saw this could be great. Right after I finished school, I realized if I wanted to do this, I needed to learn sales and I needed to learn marketing. So that's where I got jobs and really just craved of like, how can I use this? And as I was learning marketing, as I was learning the sales, it was all about how do I do this for me? And I was able to build that over a few years, and then I was able to go out on my own, full time and do speaking, and been doing it ever since.
And you've been doing very, very well with it, and you're making a great living, and it's just so nice to see somebody. I guess one message that we can send to our listeners is here's living proof that you can take something that you absolutely love, magic and public speaking, and you can make a very lucrative career for yourself. However, you have to pay your dues, and you definitely paid your dues because I saw the stuff that you went through, and
Struggles.
I've done it myself, and being an entrepreneur, you get your ass kicked just like you do in jujitsu, which brings me to my question. What got you involved? Oh, by the way, I'm very sorry to my listeners. I almost forgot to say, Bobby has a blue belt in jujitsu and a black belt in Krav Maga. So, with that, what got you interested in jujitsu? What was your first experience when you went into the gym and tried it out of the blue? And then tell us a little bit about your experience. I know you've done some competitions and what kind of lessons you've learned from jujitsu, and then we'll marry those with your career.
Yeah. So how I got into jiu-jitsu, my son started doing karate and he did it for about a year and then he liked it, but he wanted to find like a different instructor, like looking for other classes. And my wife actually started looking around and found this jiu-jitsu. What's this? And it's the gentle martial art. Oh, that sounds nice.
Gentle. Doesn't it sound nice? Yeah.
He was 5 years old at the time, so it's like, "We'll try this." So she ends up going, to this we go to Daniel Gracie Academy in Northborough, and we go there, and he does his thing, and, yeah, he's gonna start doing it. So he started doing it. He did it for about a year or a couple of years at that point, and then the professor's like, "Oh, does he wanna do a competition?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure. Oh, there's a NAGA coming up out in Springfield. You should do that." It's, just to get your feet wet, try it out. I'm like, okay, perfect. So we signed him up and I've been watching him in classes, but I don't know any of the moves. I don't know anything about it. So I get there and lo and behold, we didn't have a lot of students that were going to it. It was just him and this one other student. So we got there and there were no coaches. It was just like our whole team wasn't there. They just kind of let you know about it in case you wanted to go and compete. So he goes there. We're sitting down and they're like, do you want to like I'm learning all of this stuff on the fly. It's like, yep, he's going to be competing on this mat at this time, like trying to go through the app. I'm like, okay, I see you're gonna go over there, and they look at him and they're like, all right, is this coach here? I'm like, I don't see the coach. They weren't there for like, all right, well, you're the coach. So now I'm sitting down. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing.
You don't even know like the names of the moves.
I have no idea. I know he's aggressive. He knows his stuff. So I'm just like, I'm just gonna watch and see what happens. And I just watched, and he actually won his first fight. He won the second one. I'm like, oh, this is easy. I don't have to worry. And then the third fight, he's getting choked out from rear naked choke and looking at me. I'm like, I don't know. Don't do whatever you're
Get
doing.
out.
That's
Get
not the right
out.
thing. And that was it. And I was like, all right. I'm like, I need to pay more attention and start learning this stuff. And that's actually was my motivation to get started into it. And
So you took your first class.
so I took my first class, and how you feel like a fish out of water.
Mm.
You really do. You like at the beginning, the warm-ups and everything, that's fine. But then you're learning the move and you're like, all right. And you see it and you think, okay, that makes sense. And then you try to do it. And like what my brain is saying and my body are saying, they're two different
There's
things.
a disconnect. Yeah.
I'm like, this
Yeah.
is not, how do I, and like the smallest details make the biggest difference, right?
It's all leverage. It really is. So if you're off like an inch here, you're not going to get it. But
Yep.
if you get that, if somebody fixes that inch for you, then you get the move. But so you felt
Right
the
away.
gap. You felt the gap.
And I remember the one of the first times, then you at the end of the class, you have like the free rolling. So I'm rolling against the guy and you don't know what to do. So I feel like, I'm like, all right, so you go here and I get up onto mount. I'm like, ha. And I just looked at the guy. I'm like, I don't know what to do from here. He's like, don't worry. You're not going to be there long. He just grabs, I flip around. I'm like, "Ugh." And I just felt so like helpless and just not like, I don't know.
Yeah, and you're a guy
Overwhelmed.
who always kept yourself in very good shape. You work out. I know you run. You're very athletic. You used to play football. You're an athletic guy, but none of that really in the beginning, none of that helps that much, does it?
Not at all. And you think I can muscle through this. No, you can't.
No, you no, you even if the person's little, you're not
Yeah.
muscling through anything, right?
So that was my first
So that
experience.
was your first and so this is really interesting to share with the listeners. There are 2 types of people that go into jujitsu. Everybody who goes into jujitsu with no experience is definitely gets that helpless feeling like, Look, I'm not a big guy, so I had no expectations, but you're like a athletic person, so you probably had some expectations. Those expectations are squashed. And there are 2 kinds of people. The kind that says, "Oh my gosh, that's like magic. I gotta learn that." And then the more egocentric person that says, "Screw this. I don't want that to happen again. I'm out of here." So it's like a self-filtering process in jujitsu that somebody who cannot be humble right off the bat is getting out. And somebody who looks at it like, wow, I want to learn your ways. I want to learn the Jedi ways. They do well. And that's what you did, right? You said, I want to learn the Jedi ways.
Yeah, I you have to learn how to embrace the suck. There
100%.
there's a lot of it during it's uncomfortable. Some of the positions that you're in, like, you're just right up there, and you're like, "What the how do"
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Tap early and often is the
Yep,
best advice I can give anybody who goes. Like, give yourself props for tapping. When you
yeah,
start, just be like, okay, I'm really uncomfortable. I don't know where to go and nothing's happening. Let's reset and let's just learn from that.
and you learn that easy way or the hard way. You learn it, by being humble and tapping, or you don't tap and you get hurt, and then that teaches you next time you should tap.
Right. That's it. There's a lot of lessons in that. So now, when did you start jujitsu? What year? Or
Uh,
how many years have you been doing it?
I started, I think, either 2021 or 2022. 22, I think. I think it's
All right.
been
So you've been doing it like
4 years
4 years,
now.
4 or 5 years. Okay, 4 or 5 years. And you've competed?
I competed a few times. I've done a few Nagas. I competed at a couple of the tap out cancers and a couple world leagues and a couple IBJJFs.
Good for you. Good for you. And that's putting a lot, it does put pressure on you when you compete.
It does. I remember my first competition, the very first one, it was a world league. And, I'm a white belt with, I think I had 2 stripes at the time. They're like, yeah, you should compete. I'm like, all right, let's do this. So I go, the first guy shoots at me. I sprawl, take the back, choke, done. I won the first. I'm like, this is going to be easy. The second one, all of a sudden, he does a sacrifice throw. I'm on the ground. I'm like, what happened? And then he's trying to get the side control. And then I turtle. Then he has me sprawled down and I just got stuck there for like forever. And then trying to like move, kick up and move around. Lost that one. But it just taught me like, holy crap. Like I just got stuck in this. I could not get out of this. And I just spent the next 2, 3 months at the gym. I'm like, I'm getting myself back into those positions and working my way out of it because I need to learn how to break this. And I think when you compete, it gives you a different mindset for training.
Yes. Competition helps you much more. The competition day doesn't really help you that much. It's what you take from it, right? And it shows you where you want to work. And then you have a motivation because you were there and you're like upset. I need to know this is not going other things might happen to me again, but this one I'm going to have answers for, right?
Yeah, 100. I mean, there was a time when the first time I competed at IBJJF, I went in, and this is the thing, like, yeah, your team is there. My wife was there. I'm like, all right, you go. I walk in. You slap, you bump, you go. I pulled guard. I got to half guard, and I was trying to go up the back, and he kind of blocked that. He tried to cut through. I swept him, so I'm on top. He turtled. I went for the back. I went too high. And then I lost the grip. I should
Yeah.
have, you sit back, you hold.
You're winning. So go slow.
Yeah.
Right.
I went too fast. I went up, I turn over. Now he has me in guard. I try to open and I can just feel where his legs are. And I feel like the scissor sweep coming. And I'm like, nope, not going to have that happen. So I grabbed the leg, but I grabbed too low. He pulls, he had long legs, got me in a triangle, tried to posture and just turned. And now that was
That
it, and
was
I
it.
lost. But once again, now it goes back. I'm like, I know I'm better than that. Like I saw it coming. That was stupid on my end of going too fast up here. I had it and I lost it. And I went back to the gym,
Right.
back to
So
the
it's like
lab, work
my
on
coach
those things.
Jason always says, "You didn't lose, you learned." And you really did. You
You
learned,
learn so much
okay,
more from failing.
if I'm doing well and I got the guy in turtle, I'm gonna take my time, make sure I get my grips, make sure I stay low next time. I'm not trying to be a ninja here, right? I'm trying to utilize my thought, my breathing, and my technique. And so sometimes the lessons that stick with us the most are the lessons that cost us something that weren't free, correct?
I learned the most from those fights where I lost, as opposed to the ones I learned that I went back to IBJJF the next time it was around, and I took the gold. So it's like I
Good
didn't
for
learn
you.
I didn't learn much at that. Like I just knew, like, you feel the confidence. You feel like, all right, you get validation of I failed at this before. I learned. I went there, and now I won. Okay, you feel the validation of the work that you put in. But when it comes to learning and getting the jujitsu better, I learned a lot more from those times, those competitions where I lost.
That right there is such great wisdom. I just wanna say, Bobby, your gold medal is not gonna help you when you come into my gym and roll with me. You understand that, right?
I look
Yes?
forward to that day.
So do I. You're probably gonna maul me, but I like to talk big. You know me. I like to talk big. All right, let's talk about some of the lessons you've learned from business that you're able to apply to jujitsu, and some of the lessons that you've learned from jujitsu that have been very helpful in helping you grow your business. Some of the frameworks, philosophies, things like that.
Yeah, I think when it comes to the business going to jujitsu, it's the persistence. It's about showing up every day and continuing. Because as a, you know, entrepreneur, like, you go and there's some days that do suck, and you have to do all of the work that I don't want to do, all the things I'd love to just like hire other people to do. It's like, no, you need to put in that work,
I
even though
remember those days, Bobby, and I remember there were like disappointments, like you would think you would have a big client and then it'd fall through, and that was the one that you really needed. There's a lot of pressure on you in the beginning because cash flow,
yeah,
right? You went from corporate America having a steady cash flow to now you only eat what you kill, right?
it's scary, it's uncomfortable. And
Mm.
that's also very true when it comes to jujitsu or anything else that you start. Anything else that you start, you're going to have to deal with that uncomfortable. And I even tell kids when I do presentations, or adults for that matter, when I speak to companies and things like that, it's like you need to get comfortable with feeling uncomfortable. And that's a bigger challenge now than it was back in the day, I think.
Right, and for our listeners, Bobby is a black belt communicator. He has presented to CEOs, to C-suite corporations. He's made presentations to superintendents of schools. He is a black belt. But I would venture to say sometimes even today when you're in a high pressure situation, or like you said, you're going back to the corporate world a little bit now, I bet you sometimes you get those butterflies, do you not?
100%.
Even today, when you make a big presentation, you probably feel nervous or a little bit of fear or a little bit of anxiety. And so there's no magic pill or magic experience that makes you completely like stoic. Nobody is completely stoic all the time. Nobody is completely phlegmatic in the moment at every moment. So the beauty is jujitsu is constantly putting you in uncomfortable situations and sometimes situations that cause you anxiety. And that's a good thing because it
Absolutely.
trains you for your career.
You have to use that, right? Like Hickson Gracie talks about that. He has his book Breathe, where he just talks about your mind controls your body, your breathing controls your mind. So in those moments, being able to just refocus, take control, breathe in, breathe out, just focusing on those moments. I think that I use the same thing whenever I'm doing a presentation. With the student presentations, I know I have them down, but whenever it's like the other ones, and that's where it's kind of fun getting outside my comfort zone. And I think that also applies with jujitsu, but you get used to doing certain things and you feel comfortable with those things. And that's when those nerves kind of go away. And when that happens, that's where I kind of look at it now where I'm like, I need to kind of keep pushing. I need to try to figure out that next thing. I need to feel uncomfortable because that's the only way to expand. So when I started doing, I started getting back into more in like the corporate presentations. Like these are custom presentations. I don't have everything is not just canned into exactly what I'm gonna.
You have not had time to use that like erosion, that wind erosion that makes your presentation. When you've done a presentation for 10 years, it becomes like those tumbled stones that are so smooth
Yeah.
and so easy. But no matter how much you prepare for a custom presentation, you don't have that smooth erosion around the edges. And you know that going in.
And you don't know if it is this joke gonna land? You're not sure when you're introducing new things, whether it's to the student presentation or one to adults. Like, is this gonna land? Is this gonna connect? Am I gonna turn this way? Like, you need to, you prepare, then you rehearse, you intertwine it, you really try to make it that thing so you feel as comfortable as you can. But then I also learned over the years that when it comes to those butterflies, when it comes to that anxiety, it's a fuel to help you do
Mhm.
better. And you kind of use it because when you use that and now you get out there and you start and you're able to bring that energy and you bring that charisma. And then all of a sudden people are more engaged. And then you get through the beginning part and then you feel like, I got this. I can do this. And then
Yes.
once you finish it, you're like, all right. And even if you miss a line, you screw,
Mm.
they don't know. They have
Yeah.
no idea what you are going to say. So that's okay.
Y-
And I think the same goes like with jujitsu. Like it's so easy to get into the ruts where it's like, yeah, here I go. I pull, I always play guard. I always play half guard. I never come up. I always try this attack. And you get into your ruts. And then when all of a sudden you're saying, instead of playing close guard, I'm going to try to play open guard. Or, you know what, I'm going to try to play top because everybody's pulling guard nowadays. I'm going to play top and I'm going to try to see if I can get by. And I'm going to try to get into half guard and get out of that. Or, different ways of passing. So,
Basically, I'm okay with making mistakes so I could find something that might work.
exactly.
Right. And Bobby, because I've done the same career as you. I've done the corporate presentations and all of that. Think you'll probably agree with me when you're doing magic, right? To a company that pays you a lot of money for an hour, right? And you're thinking you have that imposter syndrome, just like when you get your blue belt, you have an imposter syndrome. When I got my purple belt, I still have an imposter syndrome. And when you see the check they're giving you, that gives you imposter, like, holy crap, you're going to pay me this for 1 hour, right? And so, just like jujitsu, you and I, we're going to do something with some mind magic psychology that has a cool, entertaining, wow moment. You and I always have a plan B, correct? Like, if this doesn't work, if the number they're not thinking isn't 37, here's my backup plan, right? And it's happened to me, and I would imagine it happened to you where your plan A didn't work, your
Yep.
plan B didn't work.
Yep.
Then we're pretty good at thinking on our feet. But I have literally had times where none of it worked. Like, oh, 37 isn't your number. And the audience is looking at you like, you guessed wrong, Frank. But I have here my other prediction, and that's wrong too. Times you tap. You say, well, this stuff is difficult. It doesn't always work, but let me show you something better. And that was always my little savior line. Let me show you something better. Basically, I tap, I reset, and then I go to what you said, the stuff that I am so good at that I know I'm going to. And people see a little humanity in that, don't they? They're like, okay, this stuff is hard. You're on a tightrope. What you're doing. Do you agree with that?
I 100%. The downside is when you don't have, and I learned this exact thing that you're talking about early on because I was doing a presentation. I was for a healthcare company. And it was
Mm.
my closer, it screwed up. And there's like no saving it once because it's like, da and that was it. I'm like, oh
You'll
no.
never forget that moment, will you?
Oh, no. And then I'm like, all right, I had nothing to do. I had nowhere to go from there. So I realized from that moment, what it taught me is always have something else just in case. It might not be as good, but have something that you can do.
So
I,
you finished with a tap out and no reset. The bell
no
rang and I
reset.
was
It
like,
was
have a
like,
good
yeah,
night.
sometimes doesn't work. Hey, it's not all set. And I just recapped what we talked about and did all the
Whew.
and then I finished, and that was
That
it.
actually hurts me on this end. That actually hurts
The
me.
the thing that saved me is that what I said, like, the way I premised it in the beginning is, like, this is dangerous because it doesn't always work because it's real, and I was
Yes, you're
playing that
using
part
real
up.
psychology. Sometimes people need to hear this is not a magic trick. I am actually persuading people doing the techniques that I'm teaching, and it could not, it almost always works. And that's why it's amazing, but sometimes it doesn't. The funny thing is, you didn't know at that point in your career to have another trick that never fails. That is a actual trick that
Yeah,
will
you
not
need to
fail.
finish on a high note. The reason why this trick was such a high note is because of the risk factor.
Yeah.
Because it's, like, impossible. So that was the nice part, but then obviously there was a big
High
downside. So
risk, high reward, right?
yeah, and I same thing with hypnosis. Like, when I learned hypnosis and I started doing, like, hypnosis shows and things like that back in the day, even when I incorporated that into presentations, it was usually for, like, college students that I would do that one. But it really depends on the audience size of how many people you're gonna get up there on stage, and then of
Mhm.
those people, only a certain percentage is actually going to be hypnotized. So when you go to a college and all of a sudden there's 20 people in the audience, that's not good numbers. And now you're trying to hypnotize, and then you get one person, and that one person is not a fun subject. All of a sudden, the entire show bombs because it's not in my control, right? I'm very much relying on that other person. So I once again learned, don't do that. I need to have a backup. So now I always bring, like, a magic show or, mentalist show with me whenever I'm doing it, so that I'm not 100% relying on one thing. And same with jujitsu. Like, you shouldn't have to rely on just one submission. You shouldn't, from a position, I'm going to go after this. I was taught, especially with competing, whenever you go after something, you should have 3 attacks from that position. 3 things, whether it's a sweep, whether it's, 2 attacks that go into it. You have 3 things, so you can try 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3,
And
and
you could
keep on
toggle
going.
between those.
Exactly.
Right.
Looking for that opportunity. You need to have options, and I think that's the same as presenting. Whenever I'm especially incorporating the magic and stuff, I need to have my outs. I need to be prepared for different variables.
So option management is something you got from jujitsu and your career. Know your options, think about them beforehand, and have them at the ready. And something that I noticed that you did very well in your career too, which I really liked, it's not a situational option management, but you did it with your income flow. You always said in the beginning, this is what I really want to do. Like, I want to do schools and companies that have a message, but I'm going to also open up the other avenues that aren't exactly what I want to do. Like, I remember you would do some birthday parties, kids' birthday parties in the very beginning, and you would just do some pure magical entertainment in the beginning, right?
Yep.
And I think that you were doing the same thing. You were saying, yes, of course, the big money, the money that's going to allow me to have a comfortable living. You have a very nice house. Like, you've really done well for yourself. But the way to get that is not kids' birthday parties and walk around strolling magic. I mean, the magicians out there who do that for a living, if that's your living, you can get economies of scale, right? But that wasn't what you were going
Yeah,
for.
that was not my end goal.
But you opened up those avenues to have multiple options from one vantage point, correct?
Correct.
And that helped you survive.
Yeah, I needed that. And it was a scary day. Again, getting comfortable with feeling uncomfortable. It was a scary day, like, letting go of the restaurants that I used to do magic at, and, letting go of being able to sit there and say, yeah, I'm not accepting those. I'm not doing those types of gigs anymore. I'm just focusing on this. And then having that trust and, using that energy from the anxiety to really focus and try to build and get more business that I was going after.
So, have you ever had a show where you actually felt, and I have had this happen, I've had this happen once, and it was the worst feeling in the world, and you're going to understand it. I'll just share with my listeners really quickly. And I'm sure Bobby knows this. When you do a presentation for a group, like at a function hall, it's a very weird dynamic. But if there are 8 or 9 giant round tables, and there's only 2 or 3 people at every table, and those tables are spread out very far, no matter how good of a presenter you are going to suck. Your show is going to suck. You need people close together in a tight space to get the wows, the standing ovation, the oh my gosh. If they are separated out all around, you're going to get popcorn clapping. And the guy who pays you is going to be like, why did I pay you? That happened to me once and never again. And I became the commander. I was like, if you want to hire me for your gig, I need the seating plan and I'm going to rearrange it so that it's going to get you maximum return on your investment. Have you, Bobby, ever flopped and said, damn,
Oh,
like I feel guilty taking that check?
yes. I had an experience very similar to what you're talking about there. This was down, I think I was speaking, I think I was in Virginia. It was one down south, and I was doing a presentation. It was a conference, and it was just like you said, they had like the round tables, but they did not assign the tables. So I walked in, I set up for the show, and all the students, and this is what everybody does, they walk in, they sit in the back.
Yes,
And
that's
I
the
have
natural thing to
about,
do.
yeah, I got about 15 to 20 tables between me and them. So now I'm on the stage, 30 yards, and then tables with the students. I'm like, what? Like, why you guys come up? And they're like, huh. And then what ended up happening, I wasn't the opener. Somebody else went up first and they started speaking. And I felt uncomfortable saying, okay, now everybody collect all your all your
Yeah,
belongings,
yep.
move up these tables, because it wasn't the beginning. So I ended up having to go to them
Mm.
and going back, and it just made it awkward because it's like running down to them, then
Back
running
and forth to the
back, like
stage. It
creating that
wasn't,
barrier. The one I've wanted to give money back, I did a presentation where it was a hypnosis show where that nobody got hypnotized, not one.
oof, that is
And it's like,
painful.
what do you
So
do?
this is before the time that you learned when you don't have the
That
critical
was the
mass
time that
of
I learned.
audience to have your backups, because if you had your backups, your mental magic, you can do
Yep.
that with a small group.
Yep.
You're still doing real like miracles, but you don't require that critical mass of people.
Correct. And that one, I felt like I don't deserve this. Like, keep your money. I'm going to go my tail between my legs and
And learn and
right.
write it down in your journal,
Yep.
right? And just for our listeners, both Bobby and I have always been like when we built our businesses, we've always been big on journalizing, writing down, man, this was ugly. This made me feel horrible. What am I going to do next time? And don't you feel like that made you get better a lot faster?
It did, because how much do you actually remember when you're doing them? It's like you remember little bits and pieces, but not the little details. And I think when it comes to presenting, same with jujitsu, the details are the things that matter the most. Like, the smallest detail can make the biggest difference, whether it's a pause, a quick turn, a gesture, a facial expression, like
Mm,
little things. I do this and I get the reaction. If I don't do this, I don't get the reaction. Same thing with jujitsu. It's like if my foot is here, it's not going to get it. Well, I need to move my hips in to get my hips underneath them as a way of having that leverage to turn.
right. That little hip out
Yep.
means you swept them.
Yep.
Without the hip out, for some reason, they're stuck on top of you. It's such a small thing, but when you recognize it through reflection, it makes do you keep a journal for jujitsu?
I don't do that.
Okay, well, this is where you learn from your teacher. You need to keep a journal for jujitsu.
I should.
All right,
I
starting today. Do you
yeah,
promise?
I promise.
Okay, okay.
I'll
You
start
don't have to
that.
put a lot in. And I'm going to give you one piece of advice. Don't put so many tiny details of like, oh, I should just like, don't take one technique and just divvy it up. Try to put in there the bigger principles. Like, you don't have to put exactly like, just say like a major principle. If you want to sweep somebody, don't forget to get your hips under them. Make it just, I think that will help your game. And I do keep a BJJ journal. And that's why you're going to understand when you come and roll with me. Oh my gosh. For those, Bobby and I growing up, like we were always, well, he was growing up, I was an adult, but we were very, very competitive. Had a lot of push-up contests, right?
How many did we do? Was it like
It
one,
was over 100
like
push-ups.
140 or
I was a
something?
younger man then. You were younger too, but we are very competitive. So when you come in, I'm going to show you I'm still your teacher. I love the trash talking. Bobby, what would you say to people? I want you to give like a double piece of advice to people who have not tried jujitsu and to people who have not tried to be an entrepreneur, but were thinking about it. Can you give a piece of advice for each type of person?
If you're going to be an entrepreneur, if you love if you love it, whatever it is that you wanna do, whatever you wanna start, kinda I would say have your plan, get ready for that. It's kinda like the Mike Tyson quote, "You have a plan until somebody punches you in the face,"
Mm.
and get
Deep.
ready to get punched in the face a lot. But if you continue, it's like you need to learn how to adapt and change and find that thing where all of a sudden you see, "Oh, I think this has it," and then you feed that thing. When you realize, like when I started speaking, I had like a lot of different presentations. I didn't know where I was going to hone in. And then I realized, okay, this is what I like the most. This is what's getting the most reaction to.
Mm.
This is what's getting the buy-in. And then I fed that thing.
Mm. And what
And
would you say to people who are listening? Maybe they're a little older, maybe they're not in great shape, maybe they're not confident about their ability to be a great grappler. What would you say to people like that who are considering starting jujitsu?
start and just show up. Honestly, I think that advice is probably good for both of those things. If you just keep on showing up and keep on working and trying to get better every day, just trying to get to be better than you were the day before. It's not
Mm.
about we talked before about like comparing and how it's so easy to look and be like, "Oh my god, look at that person." You need to kind of look at your own silo. Like you need to set your own goals that you're living up to because we're all on our own path. We all need to have our own milestones and we need to be able to celebrate those things of like, I did this. And then as soon as you work and you put in that effort and you get the negative part where you're like, I can't do this. What if this happens? Now you have that fear, you have that anxiety, you have that self-doubt, and that's what really holds us down. But once you take that first step and then you just keep on practicing and you take those thoughts, you just put them away for a second. You're right. It's like, all right, I hear all of that. I'm just going to keep on trying just a little bit. I'm just going to work on this one thing. If I can get this one little milestone first, that first milestone, it's not, I need to be a millionaire. No, it's like that first little step. You get that step and then you do it and you're like, got it. I got it. Okay, now what's the next one? And then you focus on that thing. What's the next one? And you focus on, and you just keep on slowly building, building,
Mm.
building, and you build on those successes. And the same thing with jujitsu. Like you go there, and even you might be way out of shape. There's people I roll with that they just started, and they're like, "Oh my god, I'm so." But if you keep showing up, you'll get better. The only time you fail is when you don't get up. I think
Mm.
Muhammad Ali had a quote like that. The only time you get knocked down, that's not the failing. It's when people that don't get up, those are the ones that lose. So it's
Right.
about continuing to just look at what's right in front of you, just focusing on that one little goal, that next step, and just continuing to do that.
Love it. I love the quotes, the Tyson quote, the Ali quote. A lot of wisdom here from my student. You've grown up, Bobby Hackinson. You've grown up. It's good to see. It's good to see. And not only have you become a successful business person, but you're also a great dad to your children, a great husband to your wife, and great friend, great human being right here. So I am going to take some of the golden nuggets from our conversation. But before I do that, I want all of our listeners here who might be in education to consider a little plug here for dynamic influence. So if you're a teacher or you're in education, an administrator, look up his site, dynamicinfluence.com. And if you want to build a better culture in your school, you got a guy here that knows how to engage the audience. He speaks their level. He's cool. He's got a black belt in Krav Maga and a blue belt in Jiu-Jitsu. He's just a cool dude, and he will connect with your audience and he will give them great advice that he's learned in business. He's learned on the mats from being a dad, from being a student, and he's going to share and help keep your community and your children safer. So please look that up. We'll leave a link in this at the bottom. We'll leave a link so you can visit him and see what he does. And don't forget, somebody from Hawaii. Somebody
Yes,
from Hawaii.
please, please.
You know what? If you hire Bobby Hackinson in Hawaii, you get a free hug from me, the host of the show. And that should be motivation enough. All right, enough of that. Let me wrap up some of the great things that you said for our listeners. Here's your wrap up. It's your favorite time of the program, tap out time, where you tap out and you get all the wisdom to take with you. So the first thing you said, Bobby, and I'm just going to make a quick mention of this. I love that you talked about this being a bond with your son. I think that's awesome. I think that this is a family thing. If you can get members of your family involved in jiu-jitsu, it'll just make a very strong bond.
All three of my kids actually do it now.
All three. I mean,
It's a great,
it's going to
great.
bring you guys so much closer as a family. Just get Shauna in. Tell her I'm throwing down the gauntlet to get your wife in there.
It does. I think it also teaches kids how to get comfortable feeling uncomfortable and teaches them perseverance, especially for any parent out there listening with kids. It teaches self-defense, but there's so much more that goes to it that I think there's so many valuable lessons for kids on dealing with adversity, being respectful to each other. There's so much there. So I highly recommend that for any parent having kids start.
You know, we really didn't talk a lot about that, but that is a very strong takeaway. As a teacher, I always tell my students, if I could give them one gift, if I could give it to them and wrap it and hand it to my children, to my kids, to my students in school, I would give them self-confidence, because with self-confidence
Absolutely.
comes the key to having a happy life. If you're self-confident, you go to a wedding and you dance, whether you dance well or not. If you're self-confident and somebody says something that's not appropriate, you have your boundaries and you maintain those boundaries. If you're self-confident, you ask for what you want. Self-confident people have happier lives. And there's no doubt that if your child does jiu-jitsu, that confidence will shine into every corner of their life. Dead on. That was great that you embellished on that. You talked about embracing the suck. There aren't that many arts out there that help you embrace the suck more than jiu-jitsu. Everybody sucks in jiu-jitsu. Nobody's great compared to somebody else. There's always somebody who's going to make you feel like you suck, right?
100%.
And jiu-jitsu teaches you to embrace that suck. I like the way that you told me in your words, in your competitions, you gained more value from the few times you lost than the few times you won. That says a lot about you being open and wise. And that's something that inspires all of us, because a lot of us lose in life. I lose all the time. But when you lose, you learn. And that was great to hear that. You brought up another thing, which you brought it up twice, the power of persistence. And every single person that's come on our show has pointed to that as one of the fundamental principles that create success. Just show up and don't care about the guy next to you. I mean, root him on, but that's his journey. That's not your journey. You show up and you compare yourself to yesterday's you. That's it. Show up, compare yourself to yesterday's you. Brilliantly stated. You talked about breathing. Breathing sounds like the most ridiculous advice. And when you were a white belt, they said breathe. And you're like, that's not going to make me better. And now at your blue belt level, you understand that, damn it, breathing makes you better at everything. I don't know how to communicate that so that people who don't do jiu-jitsu get it. When you control your breathing, you control your mind and you control the outcome. You influence the outcome. That's great. I like the way you talked about getting outside of your comfort zone, inside of your business practice and inside of the gym. Get out of that comfort zone. That's where all the growth happens. You talked a lot about breaking patterns of comfort. You're good at guard, well, get on top, right? You're
Yep.
great at your school presentations. You're going to go back to corporate, where it makes you a little bit more nervous, a little bit more anxiety, but it also sharpens your skills. You talked about risk and having to fail. And finally, we talked about journalizing. Everybody should have a journal for their jiu-jitsu. Everybody should have a journal for their career. Have a journal and learn twice as fast. So I think I got most of the golden nuggets that we talked about. And I'd like to say, Bobby, I'm so proud of you, seeing you grow up from that pudgy little shy kid to a man of the world. This is amazing to see your journey. And you shared all the things that helped you get there. And I hope our listeners can take some of those wisdoms and apply them to their lives. And for our listeners, we love you guys. Thanks so much for supporting us. We are over 2,000 downloads now, and we're in all these different countries. So please keep dropping hearts, drop comments, and sharing this because our success depends on you. So thank you so much, everybody. So we're going to give a peace out. Peace out.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for having me.